Can we temporarily table this and deal with Mr. Watts while you investigate?
Eric, can we do that? I believe once his application is
Why don't I look at this? Why don't you add Mr. Watts to the agenda while I look at this? Deal with Mr. Watts, and I
I'd
can
like
talk
to
to
make a motion
Alan.
to table this issue for the moment and have Mr. Watts
Add item 11.
add item 11.
Why don't you take it up as item number 8A?
8A.
8A.
So I can look at this right now and talk to Alan and let's see if we can figure this out real quick.
So this is a new application?
Let's figure that out.
This is a new application?
I don't know what it is. It's just an informal discussion.
We just had an informal discussion. See how long that?
Yeah.
You won't worry. We'll
I
share it. Thank you, but I won't share it.
I'm trying to have an informal review of three issues that I'm dealing with concerning 186 East Main Street.
Will you introduce yourself?
This is John Watson, owner 186 East Main Street. There's three issues that I'm trying to resolve here. There's an old outstanding issue dealing with the driveway that services my property. It's part of my deed. It's now called Police Road. And a lot of people in the municipality don't want the use, need to use that road. Police department, police commission, and private people. So I was trying to figure out a way of resolving this issue about using the road. This is despite that several years ago I came to the town and bringing the town to swap property so I could use this road. However, it's created an issue over time, as you're probably all aware, that the road, for safety reasons, really wants to use the police road. So what I've done is I have approached town first elected, town planner, you now, as we go through this, the attorneys that represent the commission as well as the Board of Appeals, and talk to them about relocating the driveway. And you can see, I showed you like one of the initial plans showed the little triangle. That was what the property looked like to begin with before the swap. Then this is now I've hired some set of engineers to relocate the driveway from here to the other side of the property. See it's in yellow, the rectangle. That was original, right? And then what happened is they made the lot square. I gave up land, and they gave me access to this road, and it's in the deed. Police drive. It's in my deed. So the idea is to eliminate
The use of
the use of the police drive, right? To put a buffer in there so that there cannot be any possible interference with traffic and the police use of that road. I think that was major from years ago. And I'm trying to do this in an effort to solve some issues now and what I think could probably go on in the future. Because that road really wants to be used for this was my property over here. So what we have is outstanding litigation dealing with a couple issues. One is a solar panel on the property, that's on the side of it. And then there are other issues in trying to look at the regulations and saying, look, it's at 145, and you went off and changed regulations last February. To extend the village zone wording past 145 in each part road. So that's outstanding there. But what I'm trying to do is, when I look at the plan of conservation and development, the plan, and in page 2 of the village zone, it actually says, moving forward, the Planning and Zoning Commission should review these regulations to ensure that the geographic extent requirements and mechanisms make clear and consistently deliver upon regulatory intent. Now, reading this, going through this, it looks like there's this east end, which is pretty much kind of character of what I'm living with in my area. I have a billboard, across the street. I have transformers on my property. I have the restaurant with gas stations in it. I have a police station on the other side. And so what I can see is that the village zone, definitely not in the heart of the village zone. It's more of a residential zone. And I'm more at the end. And I was trying to figure a way of resolving everything. So that's, say, hey, let's move the road over the other side, separate me from the police station so that it doesn't have an issue. And maybe we can resolve those other, all these things together. Because if I am moving towards the east end and have that consistency, I was wondering if we can deal with having this in the form of a transitional zone or being made part of this new east end, and that kind of development, the architectural design of the east end, and less of village zone. I have a hard time. I have gone to banks, and it's not for financial reasons, but they look at my building as commercially oriented in its village zone, which they really think is more residential. And they have a hard time plugging into their appraisal programs because they can't, they're not used to this mixed use kind of situation. You deal with these boards of appraisers because when a bank asks for a loan, they send your property out to an appraiser. The appraiser has a regional appraisal group that doesn't know how to deal with plugging in commercial property in what they think is a village, residential zone. They're getting confused. And I think what's going on in the plan of development is I think they're looking for the zoning commission to actually have more residential village kind of historic idea, and the east end to be more commercial, or not commercial, but well, I guess commercial, but a design. They want a similar design of the east end and do other things like lighting, the streets, trees, things like that. And so, in an effort to save litigation expense and whatnot, dealing with solar panels and the whole situation, I'm trying to see if there's some way that we can resolve this whole situation.
Mr. Watts, you keep talking about the solar panel. Where are the solar panels?
That was because there's a litigation in the solar panels because the regulations for the village zone unfortunately discuss solar panels. Said you couldn't have mechanical items.
We have
Yeah, you can allow the village zone. Regarding, I think about a bunch of issues going on. Speaking to the first issue of the zone, the town plan doesn't talk about changing that zone. If anything, it says that we're looking to solidify and expand village zones within the area. That corner that you're talking about with Beach Park Road, the issue is that when you're coming around that corner, you're entering into a historic area, and it's not a residential area. It is predominantly businesses. With the town plan, we're trying to secure that area and make it consistent and not allow for the type of development that's going to be taking place towards the eastern portion of town, the CVS or the Walgreens or the Stop and Shop type development. So with the town plan, we're not looking to change that area. Regarding the solar panels, there's been a lot of discussion with the commission on solar panels and how to look at them in terms of in the village area with historic nature. I don't know that anybody has come to a decision yet. I think everybody felt as though we should be talking about it further, and there might be some flexibility in there just in terms of my view on it. I don't know where the commission's going to go, but certainly that should be something that we should look into.
I was interested in planning development, so I had a copy of the proposed plan here. I did talk to the town planner, talk to him about, this situation.
You're talking about the
John.
Discussed.
Yes. And he was actually told me, I don't want to talk for him. He wasn't here tonight. I was interested in supporting some of what I'm talking about here. I wish I'd come back, when he's here, so I can talk to him. Because, I'm definitely not in the heart of the village, and that's why I showed pictures of, the transformers, the billboard, the restaurant, the gas station, and initially that was a B zone. It was actually a B zone before it became the village zone. And then, the preamble of the village zone said we're not trying to change what you can do with the property. But what's going on from what I can see is that the village zone, they are trying to keep it more residentially oriented, historic, like you're talking about. Whereas, I'm at the end, and what he suggested is that maybe we talk about a transitional area, that maybe the architecture and things like that kind of are imposed, superimposed, but it's more of the East End kind of what you could put in an office building. So it would help me in applying for a home,
But you can't put an office building currently in the village zone. What is it that you can't do within the village zone that you're trying to achieve?
It's the consistency with the people that do appraisals in the banking part that have, this village zone in the state of Connecticut, what you talk about here is that the town actually created this new area called village zone, but there is a statutory village zone in the Connecticut Town statutes that is more specific. So there's
It's a
not
village district.
The village district, yeah.
In the state, which this is not.
No, but they're talking about moving in that direction towards.
Absolutely.
Right. Which talks about you have to have a character of buildings, like historic and things like that, which is probably not to build more than the, building I built or, what's surrounding that. But what's having an effect on me, just like I'm a small businessman too in town, is that it makes, we're not used to dealing with it, because it's like, it's a house of 7 different colors in a way, It's,
What do you want to do with the property, Christine?
what the property would like to have potential for retail. I've had it marketed, I haven't had any comments, any inquiries on it. It's approved right now for offices. But, what I would like for it is what we discuss in here too, for that East End, is to have a mix, a residential, a doctor's office, offices, professional offices, things like that, potential retail as well.
As far as I understand, it could be allowed in the current zone, though. I don't understand what's not allowed.
I know you're done
Saying that,
Well, the characteristics is, the problem is getting older. The problem is that the lending environment out there doesn't understand how it comes in village zone, mixed use. It seems logical, and it does seem logical to me, but when I went in and made the application, I thought it felt like they can't get the appraisal because of they're trying to box it in. They either want commercial or residential.
There's no hybrid.
There's no hybrid, yeah, there's no hybrid identity here.
Look at Madison. They built a lot of hybrid buildings, and somebody financed them.
and they're all
But
in
it's
village.
not in a
And they happen
village
to be in
zone.
village, yes, they are.
They actually have, I think, 4 different village components to their downtown.
You could borrow one on that property. It's a mixed use.
I'm just telling you, this is
And
that.
if you read the language of the village zone, what it says is to maintain the residential character of the structures, because that's what you're trying to preserve there, which is the scale and character of the structures. It doesn't preclude, and obviously by definition you have it, it doesn't preclude mixed uses.
A lot of it is mixed use, right?
Of course it is.
Of course it is.
50/50.
Right, but, you know, the character of it from, 145 to the east of the river is more residential type nature.
Well, they were residential buildings, and the
Yeah.
idea is to preserve that character,
Right.
not the use per se.
And the driveway, I mean, you don't have to ask for permission to do this, right?
No, it's being discussed with the town to swap it,
But that's not going to come
to
before
change
zoning.
it.
In other words, would he have to come before
I think it has to
zoning
come to zoning too.
to move it?
Is there?
Well,
is there some
so we alter the
understanding?
site plan.
Yeah, you would.
We alter the
Change the
site
whole
plan.
site, change the site. So
Right.
We'd have to come before.
Gotcha.
Is your parcel still shaped like this triangle, or is it?
No, that was the initial shape of the parcel. What happened was he entered in a land swap like this. And this is the shape of the parcel. And that's the part I gave up, and that's the result of the shape.
This is part. Now, this is part.
Yeah.
What's
Mr.
shown
Watts.
in the dark outline was the second part of the building. That's what's built.
This,
This is part
yeah, this
two.
is the, that's
Okay,
part
so it's
two.
confusing. So this is not what's built.
Not yet, that's approved.
That was approved in the site plan.
Yeah.
Mr. Watts,
Yep.
what exactly, for the sake of time, what do you want from us? What do you want to do?
I would like to get the solar panels and be part of the transitional and part of the east end. And I'm trying to move the driveway and separate me from town property, police department. That was a big issue. It exists.
Tell me about this, you want solar panels, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I would like solar panels on the side. I paid for them. I paid $9,000 for the solar panels.
Couldn't you get a
Sitting in a
variance?
warehouse.
You couldn't get a variance for solar panels?
I couldn't get a variance for the solar panels. I
No,
tried.
we talked about the solar panels that you can only see, you can only see the back, you know.
Yeah,
see.
we don't have regulations for solar.
But we were talking about, remember, we couldn't see it, right,
We talked about them, but we have not written
written
regulations.
regulations.
Solar panels in the village
So
district.
could he write regulations and submit to us and include that if in the
Can't see it.
regulation that it could be permitted in the.
Well, you gotta put them on your house,
What do you
right?
guys call it?
They're supposed to go on the side of the house, not the front, but on the side facing kind of direction.
It was visibility issue, so the problem was, if they're on, if it's a house that's on the south side of the street, it's gonna be a solar panel on the back of the house, depending on the roof line, the way the roof. And then you get to the houses on the north side of the street, they would have to be on the front of
Correct,
the house.
but
and
he's
then-
on the southern exposure, because
It
I,
isn't, is he-
I have-
Regardless, why would you not want a solar panel on it?
On a historic house, you would not want to see a solar panel, especially if you have shake shingles roofs, et cetera.
St. Ives, England,
There-
1,000 years old.
There are places that have it, there are places that don't.
I think it's done the right way, if you wrote his regulation, it might work.
There are, model regulations for incorporating solar panels into historic areas. Some of them, we just have not adopted any of this.
So he could write his
You could certainly
thing
write a proposal.
They could be
make an
freestanding
application. Yes, you
to the
could
back of the
certainly
property,
make an
so it's not on the
application.
building.
right,
Um,
or you put them on the building, but you're on the southern exposure, I just want you to know that, you're on the southern exposure, so if you put them in the back, nobody can see them.
What's the pitch of it, your roof, isn't it, that was the thing, the side of the roof?
What happened was, is that from Stop and Shop, you could look down the road and see the side of the building. The proposal is the flat of the roof is for the exposure. It's not on the front, but on the side that faces the line. So
Oh, okay.
if you drove by and you looked up,
So
you
you'd
would
be able to
see
see
it.
them.
you won't see it, but if you're standing, down at Beach Park, not Beach Park, if you're going to the South Shopping Mall, the issue what's being dealt with is the definition, because it was defined as you can't have mechanical things, and then, so we're dealing with that. But yeah, I know, the village zone is historical, but the idea was to say, this is kind of more of a transitional area that maybe there could be an overlay of some of the regulations.
So what you really want is for your building not to be in the village zone, is that what you're saying?
What I'm saying is that maybe the characteristics, this transitional characteristics to the historic area of the village zone regulations be part of it, but then make the rest of it, towards the east end regulations. That way I can deal with putting the solar panel on the building, type of thing.
Well, I guess the thing is that all of us are having a little bit of trouble understanding what you want is a change in the regulations for solar panels, changing your site plan or your driveway location, or to be taken out of the village zone. We're having trouble figuring out what it is you're asking.
That's what I talked to the town planner, and it's not being viewed as like an on and off, like you're either in the zone or you're not in the zone. What he was talking to me about is that the character of what's around me isn't, full-blown village zone. It's not in the heart of the character in village zone. It's more, I got a billboard across the street, the transformers.
I know exactly where your building is, but I also know that we have, lines on maps, and that we don't have a definition of this kind of zone that you're talking about at this time, I don't think.
What he suggested to me is he said that, look, this is just a plan development, but he said that, look, you can talk about having the character, the design, or whatever the village zone, because it's transitioning, you're moving from the gas station, the whatever, Walgreens, everything, and you're in a new building, but you're moving towards the village zone, and that some of the architectural design could be there, but your characteristics are more of the business zone, and that's what the property was initially. It was initially B2 zoning.
Mr. Weiss, I've got one more question. The reason why you want us to do this is so you can have access to the other property, right?
No.
In other words, if you close
He
off,
has a site plan that's approved, it gives him parking.
I'm not talking about to his other parts. If he blocks off that driveway,
Yep.
Alan, the police driveway, blocks it off. He's got to open up another access into his property,
And he has that approved.
right? And then, so then he'll be going to, did you have it subdivided? There's two different lots there, though, right?
It was the approvals for the whole thing.
But there's two lots.
Site plan for the whole property.
Right, I'm asking, but
There's two phases.
two lots.
He built phase one, and phase one was dependent on
I'm
egress
just asking,
on the
so I
police
can know
driveway.
what that line
The
is.
second
Property.
portion includes egress that's directly onto Route 1.
Right.
So what-
There's another curb
So
cut.
you
It's
would-
approved with the state, but because of the change in the driveway, I have to go back to the state to get another approval for curb cut into,
Right, so what is
If you're asking for our opinion, and I'm just gonna give mine again, let me get this straight. So you got one or two things. One is try to amend the zoning map. Right? Am I wrong, Billy? You can either amend the zoning map, which I think you would have a tougher time with,
Well, we've already been down that road
or
twice now.
this doesn't answer all your problems, but you could write some regulations and come to the regulations committee with solar. That would probably be a much better, as far as I'm concerned, a much better course of action, something more likely to happen than first.
The question is, would you want to do that in the entire village zone, or would you not? And that's the difficulty, is trying to show some consistency.
You mean for solar?
Yes.
I think only in the United States would anybody prohibit solar anywhere. But in other countries, it's everywhere. So yes, I would say it should be something we have on our books.
That's what distinguishes some towns from others. Some towns allow it in historic districts or village districts or even in historic districts, others don't.
Well, we already talked about this, as long as you can see it.
Well, he can write the regulations.
That's right.
Like,
He
right,
but we're
can
talking about-
propose a
Mr.
specific-
Nicolas.
He can propose any zoning change he
Right.
wants, that's
We're
his
just
right.
talking about it, that's all I'm saying.
So, I mean, we're
And all,
probably,
and
but
we're
he
not
has those
voting
two
on
options.
anything. He's just trying to get a sense of our sentiment.
I mean, I certainly see solar panels on historic homes, just not in the village zone. And it seems to be something that we try not to do in the village zone, because we're trying in the village zone to preserve some kind of historic village character. But there are certainly plenty of homes that I see in Clinton that do have solar, that are probably historic structures. They're just not in the village zone.
You know, the property before me back in the 30s and 40s, apparently was a pit to store state vehicles, the state of Connecticut home. And they put sand there to spread it on Route 1. You know, the going east of 145, there's not a real historic aspect of it. You know, I'm dealing with a police station, a billboard, my office building, you know, a set of transformers, you know, restaurant and a gas station. I understand the desire for it, you know, this historic village area, but I'm not really in it. But I'm more than willing to try to architecturally design, you know, something that has that transition that looks, you know, I put lights up just like the police station, you know, because that was a requirement. I did that, you know, and I put those in there. I'm trying to create that atmosphere in a way, but I'm also being hampered by this mixed use, and it really is. Honestly, it really is a difficult situation. So, yeah, from a litigation standpoint, you know, it's like you can't take away the rights of the property owner. And what I'm dealing with is that I dealt with this definition of mechanical, whether solar panels are considered mechanical. So that's the issue I'm dealing with. And no, I don't want to spend money. I don't want to spend the town's money in litigating that. No, I would rather try to solve this. You know, so I'm informally coming to try to do this, and I'm going through this thought process of how to resolve this. And so, you know, my idea is to, you know, possibly you can call it a part of the transition, you know, this transition area. I'm not stealing anything from the village. I'm not taking away from the historic aspects of it. I'm asking, like, fine, apply the design characteristics that you want, but allow some of the use that's more oriented to, you know, the east end, into the east end type of thing, because I'm trying to make my property viable.
But we're not precluding any specific uses that you're saying that you wanted to happen.
There are limits in this. There's an awful lot of subjectivity in the village zone. There's it's not that well defined. The regulations never been that definitive in a way. No matter, you know, like even the location of it, it used to say east of the river to 145. You know, the mechanical structure, the solar panels. There are. It's brand new, and the town of Clinton is one of the few towns that has this type of activity called a mixed-use village zone. And so it's not that common. Maybe Madison has.
No, it's very common.
But aren't we
There's like 40 of them
Don't
in
you?
168 communities.
So what is the issue? Are you trying to market this to somebody else to buy it to develop it, or are you trying to develop it? Because I'm lacking a plan
the sale
or
sign on the
drawing or
property.
something. So if it's something that you're trying to do, I would expect that you would come to us and say, this is the specific building that I want to build, and then we would have a discussion about that.
Right.
What I'm missing here is that we don't have that.
I'm trying to come to informally talk about the area and talk about a way of resolving some two of the issues that I have outstanding. One are the solar panels, and two is to characterize this as more of a transitional type of zone.
Mr. Watt,
Yeah.
let's be honest, you got the property for sale, correct?
Correct, the lease back, keep the building, yeah.
All right, so you do this for a prospective buyer, you're not going to develop it yourself? obviously, because you got it for sale.
I have, my understanding of the regulations, I have about 6 more years to develop, to develop the product. And the economy is very bad. No, nothing's going on. And I'm not going to build a building without the economy in a different, a different form than it is today. It's just not happening. The leases in the town, things like that. But I did spend the money on the solar panels that are in a warehouse. I did come to you for a variance. I'm dealing with that in this court system. The village zone, from what I can see, is going to be trying to preserve that character in that area. But I really am on the outside of this area. And I'm asking you to consider this, to consider an overlay zone, or an overlay of the east end with the requirements that you comply with the village zone architectural structure, so that it is a transition area.
So what would happen, other than solar panels, what would happen in a transitional area that wouldn't happen in the village zone that you can't get done currently?
What I would do is I would write it, so I propose these regulations and I write them that it is considered a commercial zone, but it's limited to the design and certain, I'd add in a lot of the
You'd add
village
design
zone
standards.
the design standards. I'd add that into the requirement of this area so that it would save the town money, and that there'd be no litigate, because I got those two things being litigated and the money hasn't been spent yet. And it would help me and help me in the future to deal with financing and what the character of this is, because they like to check the box. It's either commercial or residential. They have a hard time on both sides of the fence. But in an effort to do this, I've also gone to I started the process, the engineering process of moving that driveway. So I will be back to you guys, dealing with the fact that the driveway, I'm separating myself from the police station, because that was a big bone of contention of what went on here before, is that they didn't want me, even though it was in my deed, to be on that driveway because of the deemed safety and the public use of the police department on that road.
So you can get a curb cut there? Where you want it, you can get a curb cut?
That's what the engineer, it's about $8,000 for the engineer to go do all this. That's the contract I signed. Yeah. So based on discussions I've had with other people, that's my intention, is to try to pick up that driveway, put that buffer in there, and move it to the other side of the property.
I think it wouldn't, now we were here for some of that, and that'd be something that planning and zoning would like, that we could move that.
Well, we put it, it's approved, but we approved it.
We wanted it all along.
Well, there was a difference of opinion, and the view prevailed that allowed the curb. The view prevailed which approved the plan allowing the curb cut.
Let me ask you a question. We could just wave a magic wand tonight. We had the power, which I'm not sure we do. And we said, okay, you can put up the solar panels. Would this all go away?
I still have to come back and get the road moved,
Right, but I mean, with that kind of, I'm not sure we can do it. I don't think we have the authority to do it. To make an exception or.
We need to write regulations.
We need to write regs.
But what's happening is that it's being stalled in court, because I talked to Royce and I talked to Ben, and I have, and it's state right now, right? So, because I told them what I was trying to accomplish. I spoke to the first selectman, I spoke to the town planner, and they see the positive effect of trying to do something like this. So that's what I'm trying to do. Is to not wave the magic wand, but in a way try to resolve this in a win situation for everybody. There's no sense in spending money.
I think the solar is something that we haven't really discussed
Not really addressed.
and needs to come before us.
We need to write regulations.
That you have an approved site plan. I think Christine mentioned that we've discussed the boundaries of that district twice. Once in your case, and once in the case of the proposal for the CVS across the street. And at that time, we made our sentiment clear. And if you want to ask it again, that's totally your right. As to the closing, I think that's basically, we've permitted the curb cut. If the town is willing to go, that really has nothing to do with us. The question of whether the road is closed there.
And the
Mr.
final-
Watts,
the
I'm
final-
sorry.
Sure.
Yeah.
The final note with regard to the financing issues that you've discussed with the mixed-use zoning, I mean, if this is a real issue, and if you could reduce it to a simple explanation of what these loan officers have told you and what, I mean, this is something the planning would certainly like to hear, but I'm having a hard time following the argument you're making because you do know that people have gotten mixed-use financing in other towns. But if you can cite some specific, point that a loan officer made to you and write a letter to the planning committee of this commission outlining what it is, we'll certainly, look at it. They would, if there's a real problem out there, then
Mr. Watts, as Mr. Bousquet said, why don't you just, you're attorney, why don't you write some, litigation, whatever you want, some type of regulations, whatever you want.
We already have that.
Well, that's another question I have. Are we in litigation, or should we have this conversation with the litigation?
We are in litigation. Mr. Watts is free to come to us to discuss whatever he wants. I mean, certainly,
We're not discussing the litigation.
we're not discussing the litigation. And as a matter of discussing the litigation, being a former attorney here, it would be possible to settle the litigation to give Mr. Watts his solar panels without amending the regulations at all. It's a matter of settling the litigation. So you can settle the litigation in a way that's consistent with the regulations, and it would be a one-time exception, but this isn't the place to discuss this. That's settlement discussions, and we're not really in settlement discussions here. This is Mr. Watts coming to you to see if he can figure out where to go from here. But we can't settle this case tonight.
I meant to say regulation, by the way. I knew it was
I
litigation,
can write
sorry.
I can write a set of regulations to delineate more what I'm talking about. I'll talk to some of these other people engaged in this. I appreciate your time listening to me. I'm really just trying to help the property. I really did try to make my mark on the town and do the best I could in the architectural design and initially. I think I made a very good looking building. There's a lot of character to it, I think. I think it matches the police station in that area. I tried to do that. I engaged some pretty decent professionals in the state to have that happen. And I don't plan on walking away and just leaving a mess. I'm trying to do something good here and get a resolution so that in the future, whatever it is that comes in, Tiff and ask me, whoever, doctors or some retail space wants to be in there or something,
Thank you.
then I'm not having a
We
big problem.
Thank you, Mr. Watts.
We understand. We have these gentlemen.
All right, thank you.
Yielded the floor.
Thanks.
So we have to make a motion, Mr. President?
No,
Come on,
come on back.
come on back.
Did we resolve anything in conference?
What say you, Mr. Neary?